And now, Rate That Album, Season 3, with Paul Muad'Dib and Joe Fremming. Two guys who know stuff. Hi, and welcome to Rate That Album, the back and forth podcast music review thing that we do. That was an awesome intro. With myself, Paul Muad'Dib, and my good friend, Joseph Fremming. Joe, how are you, buddy?
I am doing fantastic, Paul.
Fantastical. I'm really, really glad to hear that.
Yeah, I am too.
So before we begin, we like to do a little bit of banter. The last episode, we kind of went on a real tirade, but we didn't get to talk about a subject that I wanted to talk with you about. And then also, now we have the passing of Gilbert Gottfried. But before we get to Gilbert, we were going to talk briefly about Bruce Willis.
Yes.
Yes. So what's your thought on the whole Bruce Willis thing?
I mean, it's a form of dementia, as I believe, and it kind of sucks. I mean, let's make it, he made no secret he was a giant asshole. If people want to know like how terrible he could be, watch Kevin Smith's thing on doing Cop Out. Mm-hmm. But here's the caveat: that does not make him a bad actor. And,
no.
And for me, like the first Die Hard, him as Butch in Pulp Fiction, and that is what floors me because like I started thinking about it. He doesn't have a lot of lines in that.
No, he doesn't have a lot of lines in Pulp Fiction at all, actually.
Yeah, and it's pretty strange because at that time he's known as a smart-ass kind of, comic relief character, actor. And he goes and does Pulp Fiction, and he's like very he's not stoic, he's a little aloof, but yeah, it's just like he knocked that out of the park.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So yeah, we were talking about Red Letter Media, and they were kind of saying there's rumors about his mental illness and what he was doing. He's making these like really crappy direct to video or direct to Redbox, I guess, just so he can have like a cushion for himself and his family. So that makes more sense now why he was doing these like movies that really made zero sense. Why somebody like him would be doing them.
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, my mom loved Moonlighting. So
it was a great show.
I would watch it with her. It was a really good show, and that was my first into Bruce Willis, and then obviously Die Hard. We watched that because my mom loved Moonlighting, and then like to have him go from Moonlighting into Die Hard was like a very odd thing. But yeah, you talk about the comic relief. Like remember, he did the voice in Look Who's Talking. Yep. And then, he had a few things, and then Hudson Hawk, which is kind of a comedy type of thing, dark comedy.
Last
Boy Scout. Death Becomes Her, remember? Mm-hmm. And he had a brief bit part, like a cameo in Loaded Weapon. And then it was Pulp Fiction. And I think that really changed things. I mean, 12 Monkeys is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's Terry Gilliam to me is fucking should be way more respected.
Yeah. A buddy of mine, I give him, I shouldn't say a buddy, a guy that we went to high school with. I haven't talked to him in many, many years. I don't give him credit for a lot of things, but I will give him credit for this one, was that he was into Brazil and Terry Gilliam before I think most of us were. He would rave about Brazil, and I watched, and I was like, I didn't get it at the time. I think I was too young, but he, at our age, like understood it, and I was like, well, that's kind of nuts when you think about it.
Brazil was fuck. I saw that when I was, I want to say, junior in high school. Yeah, sophomore or junior. That I couldn't wrap my head around it at the time.
Yeah,
I got like some of the themes and I saw like what was going on, but it was like, even for me then, it was like a lot to take in.
Yeah, and now this kid was into it and I remember he rented it when I had a sleepover at his house when we were in middle school. And he was raving about this movie, dude. So, I mean, credit is where credit's due. But yeah, and also, I will admit, Bruce Willis also was one of the major influences for me getting into my celebrities that do music, like actors that do music thing. I own on CD somewhere, Return of Bruno. So
it was a huge album too when it came out. Like people think it's like a novelty. It wasn't. It was pretty popular.
It was the #1 selling Motown album in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
People don't. Yeah, it's a joke now, but no, it was a big deal, huge deal, and that might be something that we do at some point. I'm not ready to do it right now.
Yeah.
But no, that came out in 1987 when he was still kind of doing moonlighting and things like that, and it peaked at #4 in the UK, number 14 on the billboards, and if I'm not mistaken, it was the only Motown album that hit where a white person had done Motown and gotten to the level where it got to. I remember reading that somewhere, and just because it's just what I just think that's an interesting note in history. Not that it's like, oh, the white guy's better, better. No, not at all. It didn't peak anywhere near where some of the other stuff went, but he was the only one of the Motown, and he was, so credit is where credit due. I mean, Under the Boardwalk was huge at the time. Yeah, I mean, Respect Yourself, Under the Boardwalk. There was Secret Agent, man. God damn it, that album, Joe. So yeah, and getting back full circle to Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith has actually said, "Oh man, I drop everything. Like, regardless of all the problems I had with Bruce Willis, he was still a hero of mine. He's reached out to have amends with him. He put out a public apology about the stuff about Cop Out and everything like that, which just says again a lot about Will Smith. I mean, Kevin Smith as a human being.
I was gonna say, did Will Smith go and smack him too?
Yeah. I'm still getting in arguments with people about that. It's so dumb. But yeah, no, I think for whatever it is, yes, he has his faults. But
get Bruce Willis out your fucking mouth.
Out of your fucking mouth. But regardless of everything like that, this is a guy that had both a musical influence,
chances, and a lot of he kind of became a punching bag, and a lot of it was because directors didn't want to work with him anymore. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time. But he was He is talented.
He is.
I don't want to say was. He's still alive. But
he's still alive. Absolutely. And
I just saw actually today. Have you seen the Between Two Ferns with him?
No, I haven't.
Zach Galifianakis has that little Funny or Die video where he interviews people, and he just So he did one with Bruce Willis. I had no idea, and it's good. It's like it shows even Bruce Willis can be in on the joke.
Oh, that's awesome. I will have to check that out when we're done here. And
he gets he doesn't say anything, and then all of a sudden he's like, man, the 80s. And he gets this 1,000-yard stare. He's like, 1 minute you're on top of the world getting blown up Sunset Boulevard. Next thing you know, you're just in a room with your cousins, and he just stares. It's fucking great.
So, and I will say, I haven't seen all of the straight to streaming or Redbox Bruce Willis movies. I won't bother.
There's only so much bad I can watch.
See, and I'm all about the bad, right? And this is why I wasn't upset about this, because I knew this was going to be something that down the road I was going to look back on these movies that he was doing and really enjoy them for being what they are, which is terrible movies. But I was when they did the announcement of him stepping down, pulling back from acting because of this. I went on his IMDb, and sure enough, he was supposed to do 11 movies this year, and it's not going to happen. And only the ones that were in post production are coming out. Like, he is done. Everything's over, and I wonder how far along it is, and that's really depressing.
Yeah. I mean, if they just pulled the plug, I'm sure the news was he has to stop now.
I think that's exactly what.
And in fact, given like, you know, how a lot of people are like actors and people, and I'm sure the plug should have been pulled long before.
Yes,
and it was probably like, no, you have to do it like last year. He's got to stop. So
yes,
and then they probably did as much as he could, and I'm sure something. But you know, again, like my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, and like his performance in like Pulp Fiction, man, just we cool, far from fucking cool.
I love that movie.
Scene.
I love that movie.
The whole fight with him and Marcellus Wallace.
It's genius. It's genius. I you know, and I remember when Pulp Fiction came out, my mom was like, "I'm never gonna watch this. You know, this is whatever, blah blah blah. It's just fucking awful. It's whatever, you know." And like, it's one of those things where I'm like, God, I wish you would have watched it because it's fucking amazing.
Every movie from that point on until probably like the early 2000s, all independent filmmakers were trying to make their Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
Yeah. The only one who came close, I think, was Guy Ritchie with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Very close. Very close with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's get to Gilbert.
Now
that hit me hard because
that hit me hard as well.
Godfrey in person.
Oh, you have?
I was at the first Wizard World Comic-Con in Minneapolis. And I was there with my ex-wife, and her and her sister and the people they were with wanted to get photos with the celebrities. And I saw on the thing, it's like, oh crap, Gilbert Godfrey's like in the basement doing like a Q&A. Like anybody want to come? And they're like, no. I'm like, all right. I went down there. It was the most hilarious Q&A. Like, this lady got mad because he was like, you know, he's going blue. He's Gilbert Godfrey. He's Canadian. And she's like, she brought her kid there because like he was the voice of the bird in Aladdin.
Oh no!
And she's like, if you don't, can you please stop swearing? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to leave. And he wouldn't. And after she said that to him, he would not let up on F-bombs until she left. Like, she just painted a giant target on herself, and so he just went off, and it was hands on. It was basically, you know, it was almost like an interactive stand-up set because people would ask him questions and he'd just start riffing.
Oh God, he's so good. Yeah, I mean, I first learned of Gilbert from USA Up All Night.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Him and Rhonda Shear hosting USA Up All Night, which I am so sad. Like, they haven't, like, they brought back Joe Bob Briggs. I would love for them to bring back Up All Night.
Up that's all night, what like where your kids like us were hoping to, like, because they would show like those Porky ripoffs and horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically like you're just kind of hoping like one nip slip would go through the censor.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
It was those kind of movies where like when you're like 9 or 10.
All right. So fair warning here. We're going to get into something here. So I'm just warning the audience, you know, people that are listening. So I saw Porky's for the first time on USA Up All Night. Okay.
Was Gilbert hosting?
I can't remember if it was Gilbert or if it was Rhonda. I don't remember which. But I fell in love with this movie. And, you know, us being, I mean, I'm young. I gotta be, I maybe am at most 10. And so, you know, and us being, I think when you're a kid, you think that you're experiencing everything for the first time, like no one knows anything about it, right? So here's this movie Porky's, which is like super famous. I'm seeing it for the first time, so I think nobody knows anything about it, right? And so I'm going up to my parents and telling them about Porky's.
Which is like from their generation, like they were going to see that in high school.
Yes, and it gets to the infamous bathroom scene. And on the USA Up All Night version and the TV version, they changed it to where Tommy sticks his tongue in the
Oh, God.
in the hole versus
Doesn't even really make any sense.
right. But this is what they do, and for whatever reason, I found this to be the funniest thing ever. So I am explaining this scene to my parents where he's sticking his tongue through this hole, and I remember my dad dying as I'm explaining them the story. and it took me years to realize that he was laughing at the situation because he knew what was really going on, and here I am explaining to him this TV, very much like the forest and the when you find a stranger in the Alps type of situation.
Like you're too young for him to actually explain what was originally in the scene.
Yes,
it was like a glory hole situation.
Yeah, yes. So
explaining to your like 9 or 10-year-old son what a glory hole is, that might be a little bit much.
I think it was a step too far even for my old man. So that's when I first really found Gilbert, and then E Entertainment, back when E was good, they had the Howard Stern show on. Remember?
Yeah.
And Gilbert was on there quite a bit, and so I kind of found him through that. And then obviously when he found his resurgence with the roasts and things like that. But
they say that Bob Saget raped and killed a 15-year-old girl.
Rosilla!
His Hollywood Squares.
Oh,
my fool! He gives this bullshit answer. Oh yeah,
dude, even Problem Child. He was great in Problem Child. Like that was another movie of him I loved. And what was the movie where he was a fake Abraham Lincoln?
Oh, and then I shared it. I think you commented, but like when he did Funny or Die, Gilbert Gottfried reading 50 Shades of Grey.
He did 50 Shades of Grey, which is genius. That's a Funny or Die.
And all the women listening to it just have this disgusted look on their face.
At the very end, this girl's like, "This is so hot."
Oh.
And he did the same thing, not a Funny or Die, but he was brought on during COVID. This guy, when WAP came out, and there's a video of him, Gilbert Gottfried, reading the lyrics to WAP.
He was hilarious. I don't know if you ever get a chance, watch the documentary.
I did. I love the documentary.
Really good. Yeah,
so good, and you realize just what a sweetheart the guy was.
Yeah, and like how much he loved his family, and he was just kind of like. He was pretty low key off the stage,
Yeah, it was a character the whole time. Like he was the most successful Andrew Dice Clay. Is really what he was.
I was reading somebody like a celebrity encounter. So after he died, somebody was like, "Yeah, I ran into him at a grocery store in New York," and I was like, "Oh, Gilbert Gottfried, meeting you. This is the greatest day of my life." And Gilbert responded, "You've had a really shit life."
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. And there's another, I'll get it to you. There's another video of these guys on YouTube where they would try and get celebrities on Cameo to say ridiculous things. And every time they'd get one where a celebrity wouldn't do it, they'd send it to Gilbert.
Of course, Gilbert's gonna do it.
And that's what they would say. They'd be like, Gilbert's gonna say anything. So there's one where they have Draco Malfoy read this thing about how, and he's like, they got a letter back saying it's not gonna happen. They're like, but we sent it to Gilbert, so here we go. So yeah, that was the Gilbert one was a tough one for me. Yeah, I'm probably gonna be reeling on that one for about another week or two.
Yeah, that's Gilbert, and last year with Norm Macdonald, that one hit me pretty hard too. So, like those, and then of course with Saget.
Yep. Yeah.
And Louis Anderson are from our home state.
From our home state, I actually posted a picture on Facebook. I made a meme of it, just so it's a nice one where it just says R.I.P. But there's a photo online of Bob Saget Louis Anderson, and Gilbert Gottfried all taking a selfie together.
Yeah, and I think that was like, if I'm not mistaken, like not too long before they all died when they took the photo.
Yeah, like looking at that photo, it's like, oh my God, and I think about it, these are people that were, I mean, and I do remember seeing Gilbert stand up, on Comedy Central before, and things like that, back before he was the roaster guy, and this one, that was a real tough one for me. So
it was even my ex-wife even texted me because like she remembered that I was the only one who actually went and saw Gilbert Gottfried, and seriously, I came out of there, I was just like in tears, laughing so hard, and they're like, "How was it? Pretty lame." I was like, "Fuck, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen." It was definitely like Comic-Con's really cool, but that was probably the greatest thing I've seen at a con. That's Gilbert Gottfried doing a Q&A and insulting a woman until she left with her kid.
I'm not going to repeat any of the jokes, but if you haven't seen his Friars roast of George Takei, it is off the fucking rails.
Oh, God.
It is off the rails. Like you could not get away with that, what he did there, and everyone in the room is loving it. It's fantastic. So that's one you should check out too. But Joe, we're here to talk about other things besides comedy albums and Bruce Willis albums today. We're here to talk about They Might Be Giants, Joe.
Who?
They Might Be Giants.
Who?
They Might Be Giants. We decided to do They Might Be Giants Flood. The 1990 really breakthrough album for the band They Might Be Giants. How familiar are you with the TMBG, as the kids call them?
I've known about them forever. I remember seeing them on Tiny Toons when Tiny Toons would did a thing where they did cartoons with these songs from this album.
Yep.
So they're definitely like Particle Man and all that. So yeah,
Particle Man and
over the years, this is just one of those staples that's in my listening rotations.
So the same friend of mine that was really into, or the same guy we went to high school with that was really into Brazil, had a Sega CD system, which not many people had. Actually, I ended up getting one after he got his. But it came with this demo disc. And on the demo disc, there were these tracks of music. And on there was Korn's Blind and Mammals by They Might Be Giants.
Well, of course, that's quite the same vein of music. So.
Same vein of music, right? Yeah, absolutely. And so that was like what I thought was my first, kind of like thing into them. But what I realized was, as I was thinking about listening to this album, no, in 1990, when this album dropped, my sister went out and bought this album from the Electric Fetus, and had it on tape, and then later got it on CD when CDs were released. And then I had it on CD. So yeah, this I've known about They Might Be Giants. They Might Be Giants really is two guys. Yeah. It's John Flansburgh and John Linnell. Outside of that, they've had like a rotating members of backup musicians.
But they're the principals. It's like with Nine Inch Nails. It's like there's always the backup people, but at the heart, it's just Trent Reznor.
Yes.
To say what They Might Be Giants. It's just these guys, and then whoever they happen to be recording with for albums and touring.
Yep. And and we'll bring up, because there's a song where they bring up their two other bands that they were associated with, which was the Young Fresh Fellows and Mike Doughty, which they bring up in a song on this album. But yeah, no, after this, like unfairly, fairly maybe, They Might Be Giants, and I think it was a good idea, doing the crossover with Tiny Toons. But I think that unfairly put them in this position of they were a kids band. And I think that kind of held them back. And I just learned recently, interestingly enough, prior to this podcast, the the song for Pee-wee's Playhouse was performed and written by none other than Cyndi Lauper. But Cyndi Lauper was worried that it would hurt her album sales, and she'd get brought in as a kid, like, oh, she's making kid stuff because she did Goonies, and now she's doing Pee-wee. So she performed it under a fake name of Ellen Shaw. So there's that thing, and then again they've
also put out children's albums, so it's just
that came later. I think they
still it's you could categorize this band and their music as not the edgy grunge. You know what I mean? Like it's got a sense of humor and it's got an edge, but it's a different kind of one. So
I call it geek rock.
Geek rock, yeah.
Geek rock, experimental rock. Yeah,
it's kind of like it's like a Devo type of situation.
Very much a Devo thing.
Rock, yeah.
And and again, they started doing children's stuff and more things like that come 2004. I think they just started to embrace it, is really what it was. And again, if Disney's going to give you money to write for, the theme song for Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and give you that Disney money, you're not going to say no.
No. And let's just face it, like, it's a style of music that I could not listen to They Might Be Giants for hours on it.
No. No,
it's like
not.
The Flood is great, and then I like some of their other stuff, but then it kind of gets exhausting.
Yeah, I guess we'll get into that now because I was going to talk about later. Yeah, my two albums that I really enjoy from them are Flood and then the follow-up, Apollo 18, which I feel like has a lot of like songs that were left off of Flood and still kind of have that Flood feel. And then after that, like, I didn't get into John Henry, though I tried. Factory Showroom, I didn't really care for. And by time of Long Tall Weekend, I had already given up on They Might Be Giants as a thing. Yeah, I just, occasionally hear, like, even the Don't Let It Start for Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, I'm sick of that song. Yeah. I'm sick of that song. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Flood. Joe, when's the first time you heard Flood?
Just actually listen to the album itself.
Yeah.
Oh, probably like late 90s.
Okay.
Like I knew who they were, and I knew, obviously the stuff from Tiny Toons, but it just wasn't they were a band on my radar until probably 99, where I actually sat down and listened to this album. So
got it. All right, well, let's go through Flood track by track here, and we'll just kind of give our thoughts on this. Let me just pull up the track listing, because if I was a professional, I would have done that right now, but I'm a guy working out of his, basically his fucking home computer in a fucking living room, so I'm not. So first one is the theme, the 27 second theme, which is really funny because it's so pompous.
Oh yeah.
So pompous. And then we get to Birdhouse in Your Soul,
which is a fantastic song.
I love this song. I've done it for karaoke. I've done it for karaoke before. This is just this album. Like, one of the things that I think really frustrates me with TMBG.
It'll take you longer to do the acronym. Just say They Might Be Giants.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to hang with the kids, Joe.
How do you do, fellow young people? You're Steve Buscemi. Your music band shirt.
I like Joy Division. No, hey, that Morrissey, am I right, kids? So They Might Be Giants. They have such a amazing grasp on music, just as a whole. Like, just the production, the sounds, like, there's just such a mastery to what they do in my mind. You and I've talked about there isn't really a perfect album, and we've talked about it over the, kind of that. But if there was, like, the prototype perfect album, to me, this is it. This album is damn near perfect, and it's just all the different styles and notes, and just going in, starting with Birdhouse in Your Soul is awesome. Is absolutely awesome.
Oh yeah.
And
I
then
argue, it's top heavy, like we've discussed. It takes a leg towards the second half of the album for me, at least.
I'm not going to disagree with you. We are definitely going to get there. We're definitely going to get there. But on a general whole, we'll talk about that. So next is Lucky Ball and Chain.
Oh, this is like a classic take on an old kind of a country song, but kind of flipped a bit.
Confidentially, we never had a home, but this apartment.
She's 5 foot tall and sick of me. My rambling.
Confidentially, she never called me baby doll. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
And then obviously Istanbul, Knockhead's Constantinople. It's a classic.
That's classic, and I think this is probably because this was used in the Tiny Feuds thing. I think this was like the first time, for me, probably hearing a song with like Arabic,
yes,
kind of vibes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I wasn't sheltered, but I had like, when fucking Tiny Toons was, I was like, what, 10, 11? Like I wasn't sitting around listening to world music.
No, and I would agree with you. Like this was one of the first things that albums that introduced me to world music, as you said. Yeah. And I actually really got into it. Like afterwards, I was looking for songs and things that had this kind of sound to it because it was like nothing I've heard before.
And it's also a cover.
Yeah, which is so weird, right?
Yeah.
Next we get Dead. I fucking love this song.
Yeah. I returned a bag of groceries.
Like when I was younger, like I didn't quite understand at first. Like I returned, so I like in my head, I still have the image of a guy like trying to return a bag of groceries, and I'm like, how do you return a bag? Or how's the whole bag on an expiration day? Like there's so many things logistically about the song that like I couldn't wrap my head around.
Yeah. It's you're not really thinking of like that kind of concept when you're a little kid.
No.
They're like the thing about They Might Be Giants is they're one of those bands they hide dark themes through like really syrupy poppy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of my favorite songs of theirs is "Kiss Me, Son of God."
Yes,
I just fucking love.
Oh my god!
It's like a upbeat song about hero worship of like a false god.
Yes. No, it's a dark song. It's a dark song. Absolutely. I look like Jesus, so they say. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Which sliding into the next song, Your Racist Friend.
Yeah,
for
this song, like, so when I was like 19 and I heard this song, 18, 19, I was like, yeah, I feel like this whenever I'm at a party.
Uh-huh.
You go to a party and there's always some jag off going off. And you know what? I don't go to parties anymore, but sometimes I go to bars and it's the same goddamn
same bucket thing. Yeah.
And especially in our hometown, man.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't go to actually even when we were in our 20s, I wouldn't go to a lot of bars. I went to the Holiday Inn.
Yeah,
close to
Legends.
Yeah, Legends. That's where I would go, was Legends, because no one else went there. Yeah. I could drink and not have to deal with the fuckery.
Yeah, that's why me and my friend, we would go to Landmark, which was kind of like the seedy gay bar.
Yep, Landmark, another great place to go where you didn't have to deal with the fuckery.
Beer tastes like butter for some reason. They never cleaned those hoses, man. It was gross.
No, but it was a good bar to get away from things. Yeah, now I mean, there's a couple of bars in town. I think the one specifically I'm thinking of, where it should just be burned down to the ground. And just every time I hear people go there, I go, "You're fucking racist."
Well, at least the other one actually burned to the ground.
The other one did burn to the ground. That one was where all the crazy people hung out with, and that's transients and shit. Yeah, no, that one burned down too. What's that?
That one deserved it. I did not shed a tear when that bar burned to the ground.
God no, I didn't. I went, especially when I heard it burn down. I went, yeah, that was going to happen.
Yeah, it was going to happen eventually at some point.
So, but yeah, also with this song too, you know, again, I was 10 years old. My sister bought it the year it came out, and this was the first time I really was able to. I mean, because it's pretty like my sister was in the Beatles and things like that. Like I said, I got a lot of my music from her. She was 4 years older than me, and but this was the first song that I really heard of that was like political, and also again opened my eyes of, whoa, music can say things like, can, you know, rather than just flowery lyrics and poetry, like it can say things. So yeah, I absolutely love this song. Next, Particle Man, again, Tiny Toons classic.
Yeah, that's a classic.
I mean,
of course, I'll never forget the cartoon of like the wrestling ring.
no, the ginger
Tiny Toons, yeah, it's fucking
beating up Plucky. And we went to school with a guy whose nickname was Triangle Man, so I'll never forget that either. Next is Twisting. You know, I mean, this is the song that I was talking about where they very, very self-referentially, almost Tenacious D-like, before Tenacious D was even a thing, referenced themselves.
Yep.
She doesn't want your young, fresh fellows tape back. Which is really clever because that's one of the things I was like, who's young, fresh fellows? You know? Oh, it's them, freak fuckers. All right. And then obviously we're going off of sides. This, you know, we're not, but this the end of the A side was "We Wanna Rock," which is fucking genius.
Oh yeah. This album it's fucking smart.
It's smart. Prosthetic foreheads on their real heads. It's just so bizarre. And next is Someone Keeps Moving My Chair, which is all right. I don't.
This is like this is where the album starts dipping for me.
Mm-hmm. I will give you that. It's all right. I mean, the lyrics again, you know, Mr. Horrible and all these things, and it's interesting. Hearing Aid, I personally love this song.
I don't. This is where the album dies for me.
Okay.
It's like it has a momentum, and then it just nosedives here. Like it just for me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if this was like a B-side or something, it just kills the flow of the album for me. So it keeps it in that beginning, right? Because like even when I was listening to it, you know, even though I've heard this album a million times, I'm still going to listen to it. You know, I have it fresh in my head for the podcast. But my youngest child was in the car with me, and I'm playing that, and that, you know, that the opening kind of trumpet or clarinet sound. Yeah.
Still has that vibe, and she was in there dancing, right? She's like going back and forth, but then it cuts down to Frosty the Soup, and it takes that weird melodic turn.
It's like, it feels like a lounge song.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, obviously that's kind of what they're going for. It feels like a Lounge Lizard type of song.
Yes.
Like an old throwback to like Rat Pack or something like that. Because like they're all over with the genres, but they still make it their own, which we talked about with the Black Lips. You know,
Yep.
It still sounds like them, even though they're all over with a genre.
Yes.
Which not a lot of bands can do.
No, and you know, and then and the one thing I will say that I didn't like about it, listening to it again with the album, was at the end of the song they kind of go like with this weird like avant-garde, you know, like a Lou Reed style where the guitar is just kind of, and it doesn't fit the song itself.
Yeah,
and that's kind of weird. And then it jumps in the minimum wage,
which I love. This jump starts the album.
Yeah,
it just really gets me back in. Minimum wage, it's basically Rawhide. Like if you listen to this, you've seen the Blues Brothers, you kind of see what they're going with here. When they start singing Rawhide in that hillbilly bar.
Yes, it's so genius. It's such a great song. And then Letterbox, and I was in the car and I was with my oldest, and I was singing along with these songs because I know them, and my daughter looks over at me during Letterbox and goes, "Dad, I didn't know you could rap." And I'm like, "It's not. Well, I guess maybe it is, honey. Yeah, I mean," she's like, "He's going really fast," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from." I do like Letterbox. It's such a weird song.
Yeah, it's a weird song, but it goes into like probably one of my favorite songs of the album. Probably my all is "Whistling in the Dark." It's probably I think it's my favorite song on the album.
So
it's one of those songs that just hits me. Like, I don't know why. It's just, I think like songs like maybe minor keys or something like just appeal to me, but it's just like whistling in the dark.
Whistling in the dark.
Yeah, so
whistling dark.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always been like this. It's always been a favorite of mine. It's like, if I had a top 2 of this album, it'd probably be, well, if I did 3, my top 3, it's hard. It's really hard. But if I had to nail it down to 3 songs, it would be "Whistling in the Dark," "Birdhouse in Your Soul," and "Lucky Ball and Chain."
Yeah, it's one of those albums where it's tough to sit there and even pick like a top 3, right? Because there's just so many strong, good songs.
Yeah, then you're like, oh shit, "Particle Man" and "Your Racist Friend," fucking twist. God damn it.
Yeah, and I personally, like, I would put "We Want to Rock" on one of my top 3 for the album just because it's so fucking ridiculous. But it's the same thing with "Whistling in the Dark" as well. I mean, by hitting with this rock, he said, "Though I'm not unkind, I turn to hit my hand on the jail revolt of here today." It's like, what the fuck are you singing about, man?
Yeah, it's great, man. I just love how ridiculous it is.
Yes. So next we get to Hotcha. Now, I'm not a big fan of Hotcha.
I'm not either. It's not the worst, but it's
But I will say the one thing that I still giggle during it, because I do picture like this fucking French poodle like fucking up this house and never coming back.
Oh.
So there is that visual to it to me that I'm like, okay, I kind of laugh at it, but the style isn't my thing.
Yeah.
Women and Men, not a fan.
Oh yeah, that's all right for me. It's got an earworm element that it just gets stuck in you. So I'll give it kudos for that. Again, it's not my favorite, but I like it better than Hearing Aid, that's for sure.
Fair enough. And the one thing I will say that I again, why I feel like Apollo 18 was kind of like the B-sides of Flood.
So what you're saying is that album is the Magical Mystery Tour to this Sgt. Pepper?
Pretty much. Yes. 100%. I would definitely say that. Although I think I have maybe stronger songs than Magical Mystery Tour. Although I love Magical Mystery Tour.
Here's my hot take. I like Magical Mystery Tour better than Sgt. Pepper.
Blue Jay Way is probably one of my favorite Beatles songs of all time, and no one knows it.
Your Mother Should Know is a Fool on the Hill. Like, McCartney had some really weird songs on that I really like. So.
Yes, Your Mother Should Know. God, that's such a great song. Real quick, speaking of the Beatles, I have on vinyl The History of Rock and Roll Part 2, which for a long time was the only album that had Hey Bulldog. Because I don't think Hey Bulldog was ever released on an American release.
Yeah, well, it was on the Sgt. Pepper, the Yellow Submarine soundtrack.
Was it? Oh, it was on the soundtrack, but it wasn't on the actual.
It was just like the Yellow Submarine soundtrack had songs that were just never.
Yep.
Released on a fit, so it was only a Northern song, which is really good. Hey
Great
Bulldog, All Together Now.
Yep.
I think there's another Harrison song on that too, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right. I do. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I forgot about but I say when I think of Yellow Submarine, I forget about the soundtrack.
Because it's like one side's Beatles songs and the rest is like George Martin's score.
Oh, interesting. I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's Yellow Submarine, only a Northern song, which is one of the most tripped out.
I love that song.
Harrison songs all together now, which is like McCartney's like a children's song. Hey
Yep.
Bulldog, which has probably the greatest riff the Beatles ever did.
So good.
It's all too much is the other Harrison song, and then All You Need Is Love, and then the rest is George Martin's score. So,
Got it. Okay.
so it's like it wasn't really technically an album. Like it was released as an album, but it's really
it was its own thing, kind of like Sergeant Pepper Lonely Hearts Club sound. Wait a minute! no, flashbacks, horrible.
You know, in years from now, when people think of Sergeant Pepper, they're gonna think of the Bee Gees version.
Those big fuckers. Those of us that saw it do, but not in the way I think that Robin thought we were going to. But back to what I was saying was why I feel like Apollo 18. Women and Men sounds like it should have been on Apollo 18 to me and not this album. And I think that's where my disconnect with it comes from. I think it's fine. But again, in terms of the album itself, I think it's kind of just like Hearing Aid. It's an outlier. Yeah.
Next is to remind everybody, like each of these songs are barely 3 minutes.
It's a short album. It's a short album.
Yeah, it's 19 songs, right? Coming in at 43 minutes.
yeah. They're not long songs at all. I think the longest song on the album's 3 minutes and 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's Hearing Aid.
Yeah,
it's not too long.
Well, Whistling in the Dark's only 1 second shorter. Next is Sapphire Bullets of Pure Love. I hated this song as a kid. And I don't know why, because I enjoy it now.
It's called Growing Up, Paul.
Yeah.
Learn.
I think it was the notes. I think, once again, it's not like anything that I had heard before. And unlike Istanbul, for whatever reason, those notes or those chords didn't really... I don't know what it did with me, but yeah, it just for whatever reason I remember hating this song, and then when I'm listening to it for this album, for this review, I'm like, why did I hate this song? Like, I don't remember why I hated it. So yeah. That's weird.
I like it.
Yeah, it's again for a minute 36. I shouldn't hate anything for a minute 36.
Well, come on now, we reviewed a bunch of albums that
Fair enough.
Even if they were at a minute 36, I would still hate it.
Fair that's a valid point.
I don't think the timing issue of the tracks was the problem with Saint Anger, Paul.
Did you? I think I sent you that link where it's Metallica and Justice for All, but with the with the Saint Anger snare.
The snare drum, yeah. That's oh god.
I tried to listen to the whole thing. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try and listen.
Yeah, they've done. There's a lot of that out there because people just with Pro Tools will just put that snare in all these classic Metallica songs.
So fucking genius. I was listening to one with that fucking drum, and I'm like, oh my god! Like this would have been the worst. Like this album would have been laughed out of the fucking store. Jesus. They would have had. It would have been the first album. It would have been the second album ever to get returned platinum.
Yeah.
And next we get their self-titled song. They Might Be Giants.
Yeah, I like this. There's something to be said about bands who have a song named after the name of the band. Motorhead did it.
Yep, Motorhead did it. Didn't Badfinger have an album called Badfinger with a song called Badfinger?
They might have. I think the Ramones had a song called Ramones.
Yeah.
No, Ramones covered the song Ramones by Motorhead.
Oh, yes.
Motorhead's great, by the way.
Motorhead's amazing. I was just watching Return to Nukem High. The newest, because I did end up getting that Trauma subscription, and Lemmy is president in that movie.
Lemmy should still be president.
Lemmy is president in that movie, and it's fucking ridiculous. And then we got Road Movie to Berlin, which, and I'm sure it's because it's got the word road in it, but it reminds me of Road to Nowhere by Talking Heads.
Yeah. It's also a good way to end the album.
Great way to end the album.
Yeah, I like it. Again, like this album really only has like 2 songs I'm not super fan of. That, you know, again, there's no such thing as the perfect album for me. So
no, and again, for me, this is the prototype for it. Like, this is one of the things that you do to get to that perfect album. I think they were goddamn close, and
killed those 2 songs, it probably would have been a perfect album.
You know what? I will agree with you. 100% on that. I really do. I think, but at that point, would it have been an album or an EP? Because it's already so fucking short.
Oh, those are. Well, I mean, Weezer's released half-hour albums that are called albums, so I think it would most definitely be considered an album.
Yeah, but you know,
remember, Green Album clocks in at like what, 26 minutes.
Fucking Christ, that's not an album, that's an EP. What a bunch of assholes. but you could charge more if you call it an album.
Yeah. Back when people bought that.
So overall, this album got amazingly positive reviews. It was 4 stars, 4.5 stars. You know,
a Stone Cold classic, Paul.
It is.
Like, you really, Stone Cold classic, like, you know, there's no, not a whole lot of, you know, doubters that this album isn't great. I'm sure there's one guy out there, probably some asshole at Pitchfork.
Well,
gave this album a 6.3.
Actually, Rolling Stone's David Brown found the album to be unremarkable overall, criticized the band's novelty, and found it to be wearing thin as the album progressed. So
Rolling Stones, if it's not Springsteen or U2 or the Rolling Stones or a Beatles, like, they're just not going to get great reviews.
Well, and they went back later, because in the original Rolling Stone review was given 2 stars. It was the lowest review out there. It was given 2 stars. However, in 2009, revisiting Flood for its 20th anniversary, they called it iconic and revolutionized college radio. Which
that's what we in the business call rewriting history.
You would know, you're in the business, sir.
Yeah, that's saving face, Paul.
Yeah, and I will say it did change the rock radio perception. I think this album really influenced a lot of the geek rock, the college rock, and saw where people could go musically and production wise. I mean, again, this was their second album, and it was. I mean, production-wise, you would not know that.
No.
You know, no. So, yeah. I mean, they put out a few things here and there, but like there was B-sides and things like that. Like they put an album like in 1986, but Flood was like their big second album. So, Joe, would you recommend They Might Be Giants Flood?
Oh yeah, it's a great album.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah, this was the final pick of my 3 like albums that I loved that I wanted to do, given the last where we were before.
the dark times.
The dark times before we go back into the dark times. But these were just things I was like, you know what, we needed something where we were like, yes, okay, we can do this, because really Pat Boone destroyed me. Not gonna lie, Pat Boone destroyed me, and it took 3 really good albums for me to get over it.
That's right.
So, and you know, and the other things that we've done in between here and there, which have been really good, your picks. Yeah. So, Joe, before we get to your pick for the next one, I know I'm way behind on getting podcasts out there. It will happen this weekend, God willing. What do you and Joe Brown have going on at the Joedown?
We're going to be, hopefully this week. We've just been behind with work and everything. We'll get our Spider-Man No Way Home up.
Okay.
Up, and yeah, it's me gaslighting Brown through the whole thing because Spider-Man's his favorite superhero. And I purposely get all the villains' names wrong, and it just pisses them off. And I think because it's one shy of the Sinister Six, I'm like, and I'm pretending I don't know any of them. I'm like, I'm going to dub these the Fearsome Five. And yeah, he wasn't. We got a little bit into it before we had it. Something came up, but yeah, he's just like son of a bitch.
Oh my God, that's genius.
And it's not a short movie either, so
no, it's not a short movie. I would say I love Spider-Man. But One More Day killed it for me, and I gave up on Spider-Man after the One More Day comic. I absolutely despise that so much that it ruined Spider-Man for me.
I never read that. I really like the first two Raimi movies.
The first two Raimi movies were gold.
Fantastic. I was telling Brown, like, Spider-Man 2 was probably my favorite superhero movie until The Dark Knight came out.
Agreed. Mine too.
Because I was just like, Alfred Molina is just fucking phenomenal. Like, he brought people say like Heath Ledger and like with the Nolan stuff. Like, I think he brought some gravitas to the comic book villain.
I think he was the prototype for it.
Yeah, I think he was the prototype too. So yeah,
100%. And I think that's why I love that movie so much, because it was finally a believable villain.
Yeah.
That felt like three-dimensional and not like just a cartoon villain.
Yeah, where you actually have conflicting emotions as you're watching it. Like, sometimes you're even rooting for Doc Ock in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's such a good. Yeah, I love that movie. I was really looking forward to Spider-Man 3.
We reviewed that one.
Yeah.
Then, whatever. Course correction, and I really liked Homecoming. I didn't like that second one with Gyllenhaal in it. Like, I hated that. I sat and watched that, and I was just fucking angry. And then, like, No Way Home. Like, you guys can read the review, but yeah. So, but yeah, and after that, Brown, that son of a bitch, he picked Never Been Kissed. So.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. So,
oh no.
Don't
God.
worry. He's getting his comeuppance.
Yeah, good. That one, yeah, he deserves a comeuppance for that one. Fuck. Yeah. I will say though, knowing what I know now about Spider-Man 3, Raimi wanted to do. Was it Mysterio?
They blocked him because it was a game. Same with Schumacher. They wanted to start selling toys and shit.
Yeah, and Raimi really wanted to do Mysterio, and he didn't like Venom. So I feel like he purposely sabotaged number 3. In a way, I really do feel like he sabotaged number 3.
Well, they forced it, and you already had Sandman, which is whatever. Who was the other? It was like there was 3 villains.
Sandman, Croc,
Green Goblin.
Oh, Green Goblin.
He had what's his nut, and it
Franco.
Yeah.
Franco. Yeah, and then you had Venom, and then God, I thought there was one more, wasn't there? Like, it was just
it was such a bad movie.
It was such a bad movie.
Let's stop talking about Spider-Man.
Fair enough. Joe, what are we doing next time for the Rate That album?
All right, Paul, pick A or B.
I'm gonna go with the B side.
That's good, because A was the wheel of shit.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. So I decided we need to get back to hip hop, Paul.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing the Black Album by Jay-Z.
Fuck yeah, we are. Fuck yeah, we are. You're goddamn right. Awesome. I'm excited for that.
Yep, I am too. Yeah, I was nervous there. You're going to pick A.
It's funny. You lucked out, my man, because I was going to do the Jay-Z album that he put out after
with Linkin Park.
No, because did he put out an album after Beyonce put out Lemonade?
Oh God, yeah, that's what,
444. Yeah, what was it? 24. Yeah, it was something.
444.
444. Yes. Yeah, I was gonna do 444, but
that's not good.
No, but instead we're gonna do the Black Album, which I'm totally fine with.
Yeah, I am too. I love the Black Album. So
it's a great album. So fuck yeah, we're doing the Black Album. Okay, cool. All right, Joe. Well, anything else? Any other topics or anything we didn't cover before we go here?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Do you want to take us out?
No.
This has been Rate That Album with Paul Muad'Dib and Joe Fremming. Thank you for listening.